Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new breed of Audi RS. The Q3 is the smallest car in the brand's SUV range, but it's also the first to get the full Rennsport treatment. But can a high-riding crossover really make for a high-performance driving machine? Well, I've come to the Austrian Alps to find out. All the design hallmarks of the RS brand are here to see, with a bold honeycomb grille flanked by enormous air intakes, standard 20-inch alloys, and a massive single-pipe oval exhaust that almost looks like a throwback to the rallying days of the 80s. The overall shape really does suit the extra aggression though, and the flagship Q3 certainly looks like it means business. This is the 4th RS model that Audi has launched this year and the 8th overall. And as you can imagine, they're getting quite good at building the interiors by now. The cabin in here is not quite as slick or modern as you get in the new A3 or the A6, but it certainly does the job. The flat bottom steering wheel, quilted leather seats and some carbon trim and RS badges let you know you're in something a little bit more special than an S-Line TDI. In fact, the RS Q3 gets one of the most characterful engines in the entire Audi lineup. It's a 2.5 litre 5-cylinder turbo with 306 brake horsepower driven to all 4 wheels. So let's find out what it's like to drive. So what does it take to turn a Q3 into an RS? Well, the suspension has been lowered by 25mm, and the stoked engine that I've already mentioned develops 306 brake horsepower and 420 newton meters of torque from just 1500 RPM. It only comes with one gearbox option, and that's the 7-speed S-Tronic dual clutch. But having 2 pedals means you can brake with your left foot, and if you start to tap into that torque, first of all you hear how loud the engine is. It makes a great noise when you're in sport mode. But also, you race through the gears. You're zipping up to the red line, which is about 6,800 RPM, and you're constantly using the paddles mounted on the back of the steering wheel to pull you into the next ratio. The car that we're in is sitting on 20-inch alloy wheels, and although the roads we're testing on are quite smooth, the ride actually feels okay. It's certainly better than the old RS3 and the TTRS, which suffered from really stiff suspension over bumps. So in that regard, the Q3 is actually a step forward. It's a strange thing though, it's actually quite docile. If you leave it in drive and let the gearbox shift gears itself, just feel like a normal petrol version of this car. But shift it into sport mode, drop down a few cogs and unleash this incredible engine, and it becomes a whole different animal. There's certainly more body roll and lean than you'd get if it was a hot hatch, but to be honest, it's not as bad as I was expecting, and the Quattro 4-wheel drive system really does sort you out. You can feel it shifting torque between the wheels to try and get as much grip as possible. It does understeer a little bit, but I can't say it's quite as terminal as you might expect. I know fast Audis in the past have certainly had problems with this, but to be honest, it's the engine that really dominates the driving experience and makes you want to keep driving it as fast as possible. They fitted a bigger set of the wavy design of disc brakes that started with the RS6. They're 365mm in diameter on the front wheels, and they do a good job. We've been going up and down some pretty steep hills, and even though I've been driving fairly quickly and certainly putting some heat into them, they haven't faded or gone to the floor or anything like that. So actually, I have to say that the RS Q3 is quite convincing as a performance car. But what's it like as a crossover? Here in the back, as you can see, Headroom and Legroom are both very decent. I'm sitting behind my own driving position, and I'm about 5'11". But it's no better than you get in a 5-door hatchback. And to be honest, even though the boot's about 350 litres, again, this isn't a huge advantage over just a normal 5-door. In fact, the only real advantage is the high driving position. But is that enough to make it a real RS? Team RS has done a great job with its first SUV, but despite a multiple range of talents, the RS Q3 is likely to remain a niche choice. Audi reckons that in the UK they'll sell about 500 in a full year. The engine is a real highlight. It's got incredible low-down torque, and the way this thing covers ground is pretty devastating. But I have to say, there are probably better and more engaging ways to get a £43,000 fast car fix.